I think it's easy to forget the power of individual action. And I hope your audience reflects for a moment on some other great leaders who, using their voice in surprising ways, changed the course of history. Think of Rosa Parks, who, with the simple word of defiance, no, refused to move to the back of the bus in 1964 and changed the trajectory of the civil rights movement with that simple act of principle and defiance. Think of Greta Thunberg, who couldn't possibly have imagined that her simple act of protest, sitting with a sign in front of the Swedish parliament, would invigorate and launch a climate change youth movement around the world, the likes of which we have never seen, and literally changed the speed and course in which we were talking about and working on the issue of climate change. They never could have known the outcome of their actions when they took those actions, any more than my father could have known that in calling for college campuses to set aside a single day to teach on the environment, that a environmental movement would be launched. And so I want people to know and believe that they too have a sense of agency. They too have power through individual action. And we recommit ourselves each and every day to get up, to operate from a place of principles and values about those things which we care deeply about, and do what we can with what we have. And each and every one of us can make a difference.
Our next speaker is Mandela Barnes, who has served as Wisconsin's 45th Lieutenant Governor. He is the first African American to serve as Lieutenant Governor of Wisconsin, and the second African American elected to statewide office. Born and raised in Milwaukee, Lieutenant Governor Barnes is the son of a public school teacher and a manufacturing assembly line worker, a proud product of Milwaukee schools, and a graduate of Alabama A&M University. At the age of 25, Lieutenant Governor Barnes was elected to the Wisconsin State Assembly, where he served 2 terms. Now, as Lieutenant Governor, he serves as a chair for the Governor's Task Force on Climate Change, and also serves on the Governor's Health Equity Council, the Governor's Council on Financial Literacy and Capability, Wisconsin Criminal Justice Coordinating Council, Wisconsin Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women Task Force, and the statewide 2020 Census Complete Count Committee. The Lieutenant Governor uses a platform of sustainability and equity to fight his solutions that invest in opportunities and fairness for every child, person, and family in Wisconsin, regardless of zip code. Please welcome Lieutenant Governor Mandela Barnes.
Hello, everybody. I am Mandela Barnes, Lieutenant Governor, and I am so honored to be participating in the Peace Tree announcement event. First of all, I want to thank the College of the Menominee Nation and also Menominee Tribal Enterprises for inviting me to be able to share this message and also for hosting this event. Now, the peace tree that is being planted today serves as an important symbol and reminder for us all. It's a symbol of peace and unity, and it comes at a time where we have been extremely divided. Now, after a year of tragedy and pain, justified anger and protests, this tree serves as an important reminder that we are all one people, and we're dependent on one another for survival. And just like the peace tree's branches work together to make and take in sunlight and sustain the life of the tree, we must also find a way to come together in order to move forward towards shared prosperity. Now, I also want to recognize that this event is taking place as part of the Shifting Season Summit, an annual gathering that's focused on sharing climate resilience knowledge that exists within indigenous communities. This is a summit that demonstrates the leadership of our indigenous communities in addressing the crisis and also taking action that is needed to protect and care for our land and our water. And in contrast, as a society, we've made far too many decisions that have negatively impacted our environment and our health. And that's why we're in desperate need of bold, urgent climate action. And I'm incredibly proud that our administration is stepping up to take that bold action. And we've been committed to taking this crisis seriously since day one. And I'm also honored to have led this work as the chair of the Governor's Task Force on Climate Change. Now, we started by assembling a diverse coalition of task force members, from indigenous leaders to environmental advocates and even business executives. And we all worked together to create a plan for a cleaner, safer, and more equitable state. Now, after a year of gathering information, of discussing policies, and also hearing from the public, last December we released our climate change report. This report included 55 potential climate solutions that span 9 different sectors. And I'm incredibly proud of everything that we've accomplished thus far, but I also recognize this work would not have been possible without the input of indigenous people with thousands of years of traditional knowledge of how to live in harmony with the land and the wildlife of this area. Indigenous people have been harvesting the natural resources that have been provided by this earth in sustainable and responsible ways since long before the state even existed. And the Menominee Forest is a perfect example of this. Making up over 230,000 acres of land, the Menominee Forest is recognized as the largest single tract of native timberland in the Great Lakes region. Not only does it provide valuable natural resources and a vibrant habitat for wildlife, the forest also stores 420,000 tons of carbon annually and produces enough oxygen for 7.2 million people per day, which is more than our entire state's population. Studies have even shown that the Menominee Forest does all of these things better than non-tribal forests. This is exactly how a forest should be managed. And as a state, we should do more to learn from our Menominee forest keepers and employ more of their practices in all of our state forests. Now, our task force report and our state budget proposal include a number of provisions to protect and also restore our state's forests. And if we're able to get these proposals signed into law, I am incredibly hopeful that our state can be a leader in tackling the climate crisis. Now, I'm excited to be able to continue this work and also continue following the lead of indigenous communities in our state as we all work together to conserve our natural resources and also to protect our land and to protect our water. So I just want to say thank you all again for inviting me to be a part of this Peace Tree event, and I cannot wait until we can all gather in person. But until that day comes, I just want to wish you all an incredibly happy Earth Day.
I'd just like to introduce a real special person to you. Great partners with the Menominees, the Oneida Nation has sent along their cultural advisor, Robert Brown, and he's going to tell us about a real important thing that we're doing here with the Peace Tree. This is the Peace Tree story, and we wanted to get it firsthand from tribes that were involved in it originally. So Robert Brown, thank you for coming, and could you share that story with us today?
Thank you. Skaluhiaji Go. The Tree of Peace originated from a time in our history when our nations were embroiled in a terrible state of conflict and warring. We had overlooked our ceremonies and were no longer mindful or grateful for our gifts from the Sugaya Disu Creator. During this time is when our villages fought and were not at peace or of a good mind. There was a young woman who was chosen to give birth to a child, a son, who would become known as the Peacemaker, who had a gift of speaking truth and wisdom and embraced peace amongst all. The Peacemaker visited a number of nations to teach each nation. He brought the message of peace. He was able to bring the message to all with success in getting them to agree to gather all of their weapons and bury them beneath a great white pine. And this great white pine would always be a reminder that they buried their greed, hatred, and jealousy with each other, and would never again pick these up against each other. Yundlachtase Go, Great White Pine, has a cluster of 5 needles in which the Peacemaker chose this tree to also signify the 5 nations he joined together. They are bound together as one, and the Great White Pine is forever and always fresh and green as their commitment to each other. There are 4 main roots of the tree that spread out into the 4 directions. They are known as the 4 white roots of peace. There is so much more to know about the Great White Pine because it became the tree of peace. It would take much longer to share at this time, but we do hope that all have a sense of greatness and importance of the Great White Pine and the power and peace it represents to our people. It brought our nations together as one mind, one body, and one heart. Thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing with us, Robert. It's an incredible story, and I hope that our nation will learn from the tree and the story, and we can move together in new unity. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Please welcome Adrian Miller, CEO of Menominee Tribal Enterprises. Adrian worked at Menominee Tribal Enterprises for 17 years as a logging contractor, and in the Menominee Forest for 10 years as a certified law enforcement officer for 20 years. Graduate of St. Norbert's College in Wisconsin and certified national hardwood inspector. Please welcome Adrian Miller, CEO, Menominee Tribal Enterprises.
My name is Adrian Miller. I'm an enrolled Menominee Tribal member. Currently, I'm the president of Menominee Tribal Enterprise. I've been a lifelong resident of this community in all my years. I'd like to say a thing about our forest, particularly the Menominee Forest. We have we have the best managed forest in the world. The Menominee have an epistemology that goes beyond anything in practice or print. And our statistics bear that it is probably the greatest managed forest in the world. In 1854, we started taking records of the amount of lumber that we harvested out of our forest to present. It was over 2.5 billion feet when we started. And today, we have 500 million more feet on our forest floor than when we started. That shows that, hey, this works. What the Menominees do works, and it should be an example for all forests all over the world to follow our lead, to do what we do. Starting back with our how we invented sustained yield by Chief Oshkosh's words about starting at the east end of the forest and work our way to the west end, and then back to where the sun rises, and when we finish there, to turn around and start back again, and the trees would last forever. Taking only the mature trees, the sick trees, and the down trees, and we've kind of perfected that over the years. And today we have this great, beautiful, wonderful forest today that we have. It's just a marvelous spectacle, especially if you can see it from the sky. It's so beautiful. But anyway, I'm talking about our pine tree, the Menominee pine tree and the united mankind. Trees are connected with the interdependence of all living things around them. Our emerald giant, the Menominee Forest, is a super organism with vast systems of interconnections. The trees literally protect the precious ground it stands upon. They communicate through the use of scent and electrical signals. They produce different compounds that fend off diseases. The tree is only as strong as the forest that surrounds it. Trees have survived for thousands of decades because there is so much genetic diversity. Our forest is a massive carbon dioxide vacuum which stores the carbon and returns clean oxygen for the world to breathe. Literally, our forest provides humans the breath of life. The pine tree, because of genetic, always grows straight. Like humans, pine trees shed their skin. A forest is a massive carbon sink and is the world's best agent of change to fight against climate change. Our forests help prevent soil erosion, flooding, drought, tornadoes, and hurricanes. This ever-giving forest cooled the earth. Even in death, a tree provides life to the microscopic soil for others to flourish. Our beautiful pine trees have antibacterial and antiviral properties. The pine tree, like other conifers, actually kill germs in the air by sending out phytoncides. Wow, look at our magnificent sustainable managed forest, and you'll see one of the most beautiful expressions of life itself. The Menominee Forest stands as a cherished monument to the forests of our ancestors who vigilantly protected a great bounty they inherited. The health and beauty stands out so great it can be seen from outer space. The value of Menominee culture lies in the soul of our forest. This vast ecosystem has sustained the Menominee tribe for thousands of years. This living giant is more than a forest, it is our spiritual home. We treat it with love and respect. It is our continual source of spiritual sustenance. This precious forest is a sacred place of our cultural expression because it is a highly regarded part of our tribal identity and values. If you want to protect the earth, listen to the drumbeat and lessons of the Menominee people, and you will hear an elegant song of an ecology of hope. Follow our lead, plant a pine tree. Today, we all need to emulate our Menominee ancestors' spiritual discipline of protecting our healing forest. Let's all unite by planting this peace tree. One tree can start a forest. It is the forest that can save planet Earth. Thank you.
Please welcome Gerald Torres. As a pioneer in the field of environmental law, Torres has spent his career examining the intrinsic connections between the environment, agricultural and food systems, and social justice. His research into how race and ethnicity impact environmental policy has informed his teaching and practical experiences and has been influential in the emergence and evolution of the field of environmental justice. Teaching such courses as critical race theory, environmental justice and climate justice, federal Indian law, this Yale professor has done it all. Please welcome Gerald Torres from the Board of Directors of earthday.org.
I'd like to thank the College of Menominee and the Menominee Nation and all of our partners who've made today possible. I want to introduce myself. I'm Gerald Torres. I'm board chair of Earth Day Network. My day job is working at the Yale School of the Environment and the Yale Law School, where I teach environmental justice. I've been involved in these kinds of issues probably most of my life. But one of the reasons Earth Day is so important is, and important for this conversation today, is that its roots are actually in Wisconsin. Senator Gaylord Nelson, shocked by the oil spill off Southern California coast, which remains the third largest oil spill in our nation's history, as well as the deterioration of our natural environment, proposed a national teach-in on the environment to mobilize college activism, students, the anti-war movement, and others to take seriously the necessity of getting national action to improve our environment and to bring a broader general awareness of the environmental issues facing the country. He tapped Dennis Hayes to organize the first Earth Day, and Dennis, with the leadership of Gaylord, organized I think what is still the largest single day demonstration in American history. More than 20 million Americans took to the streets on that original Earth Day to not just complain, but to demand action. One of the interesting things about Earth Day, and one of the things that made it so important then and continues to make it so powerful now, is that it enlisted allies from across the spectrum: farmers, industrial workers, white-collar workers, rich, poor, Democrats, Republican, urban, rural. All of these people recognized that without concerted effort to address the challenges facing us, we would not have the world that we desire. The fight for a clean environment has entered a new phase, as we all recognize that climate change poses an existential threat to all of us. The theme for this year's Earth Day 2021, is Restore the Earth. And what we mean by that is that we reject the options that we think are insufficient. We know that natural systems have to be restored in order to provide us a pathway to essentially net zero in emissions. While we await decisive action in other realms, and while COVID-19 has revealed the manifold injustices that continue to pervade our society and that have been exacerbated by environmental harms, we have embarked on a restoration program, a forest restoration program, that will enable the establishment of large carbon sinks to provide a natural place to sequester carbon. Every year, an area larger than the United Kingdom is lost to deforestation. Healthy forests are going to be essential if we aim to actually achieve the greenhouse gas goals we've set for ourselves. In order to do that, we think the time to act is overdue. The time to act is now. And that's why we have come together today to celebrate what the College of Menominee and Menominee Nation is doing to bring the indigenous knowledge that they have and traditional ways of managing the forest that they have back into focus, so that we can see that there are many ways to preserve healthy forests that will not only help us achieve clean air and clean water goals, but our greenhouse gas goals as well. People need to remember, and what the Menominee Nation is doing with this project is to exemplify one little piece of, I think, missing knowledge. When the Europeans landed here, what they saw, they thought, was a wilderness, untracked, untamed. In fact, what they were seeing was a managed landscape that had been managed by indigenous people for millennia. That knowledge on how to manage a landscape that appeared to the European eye as wild is being brought back into action. And we're seeing that with the Menominee tribe, Menominee Tribal Enterprises, and with the outreach that they have made across the country to communicate this effort. We think that every school, and by we, I mean Earth Day Network, earthday.org, you can look us up. We believe that every school should have an educational program that informs children about the needs for a sound environmental education, and also tells students things we used to learn, and that is that civic engagement is an obligation of all citizens. We have this democracy if we want it. It belongs to us. We are determined to work with others to bring environmental education to all students. The Menominee Nation is helping to spread the word about the needs of naturally or indigenously managed forests. And with them and our partners, we can protect the natural forests, the natural resources that ultimately will protect us. So I'd like to thank the Menominee Nation for helping us to bring this program to you. They are going to be in the forefront for the next 50 years in our discussion of the goals of Earth Day. They are going to plant trees in Wisconsin. They are going to provide white pine peace trees that will be planted in major cities all across the United States and in our nation's capital. Let 2021 be the start of the next 50 years in which we restore the earth, in which the next 50 years we can make as much progress as we've made up to this point and finally be in the place we want to be. Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to be able to address you today.
Wow, what an exhilarating day and wonderful celebration. On behalf of the College of Menominee Nation and the Sustainable Development Institute, I want to thank all of our participants who made this day possible, and each and every one of you for attending our celebration. Honoring the earth and highlighting the theme, Restore Our Earth, brings forward the importance of us all working together in unity to make our world a better place. This starts with each and every one of us. We're Wannon. I now invite Luke to say some closing words and Wolf River Drum to provide a travel song.
Hauka Otachia Hana Akayan, Mishik Winona Kaiskotemana cook for Snowatch Kakitian, and in its case, it Heope Hatchkona Tukiwaya. So Mahauka Kimasa Masno, Mishikta Mawa Hekakum not more cork to Nano Inaka and it's a face to a not the way a Heope. Shikta not the moya, for Spatro topping him and now, and the Porkun, Kais Notama. Only we at case after what met say we still cackle. Not the moya, pos mat no safety a hene hanakoni gun. Macy at the darker seven, pos patch totem on maoni cackle. Pos patch canawe, toa, a yum coco massacre maconino, a yum a kale. Manita pos patch total now, maw menatoak. We know a neat pitic na pihi. Maw hair come the matsuck. Manita maw menatoak. Maw whiskey no suck, metrical peach cannon. Wa ki chihuahua tenwe markin in a wak awe wak. Na hauta. Ne kakin on a pasanaka was kokata semina he hios. And it tawaki ko CMN was not the more. Ki wiki te mausta he safety ak. Manita mesia he wiski pamata sewen so cut weight sucker sinino on. And they wait sucker sewen for Palmasima cut susni hakihi. Mesia hayata taka sewen manita wiski pamata sewen so cut to se kimaka. Kispin weaks tenahene passena way out so mahno eat mashikni. So cut ni wait sucker sit monaka manat meno. Na hauka. So kanani ni kata way out now he young netnama check ni metiko. Or tapin in a young netnama. Shikta or tapin of Mawakiki tonan. Passena manitonin owensta or tapin emena haya the book and manita. Wakichu out so say kimaka kiman nimanatmeno. Not the moya so mahno and anichi kemeno hene. So could kishio anichi kaya. Spos mahno wait to corsia. Wapatisia kiwik ni wiki temena so safety and Petlana pinat kispin kin wait to corsia he hios. Na hata and it can you act. Tanoe markinak net